you bunch of drunks.
I don't care if they really didn't sing this. I don't care.
I don't care.
I do not care.
He doesn't care.
I don't care. Some Milli Vanilli. Actually, I had the vinyl of this. I'm embarrassed to say. But you know what? You can't knock that. They're good.
Yeah. What's embarrassing about that?
Did they ever find out who actually really did sing this?
They did, yeah. I don't remember who it was or the whole thing, but I do know that they revealed who it was.
That person's career didn't take off. That's interesting, though, right? All that work, and they're the real Milli Vanilli, and they didn't do anything. And the fake guys, had it made. Except I think the one guy, I don't know. I haven't been following there. I guess that's another Google today.
Yeah, that's another Google search.
Whatever happened to Milli Vanilli? Because I think we got the crash test dummies out of the way. I don't know why I do this I must do this on purpose because I immediately set myself
Giles.
up.
Only through your show, your Clash Daily, other sources for news, would you even get that kind of intel?
So I always set myself up for certain ridicule from Doug Giles. I don't know how I wind up doing that, but so all I need to do is play some
Blame It on the Rain.
Little Milli Vanilli before I get to Doug Giles and let the beating begin. What's up, buddy?
Yes, let the beatings come in. Hey, Jamie. Hey, it's take a band, remove Milli Vanilli from the table, put a butt kicking, ass kicking band like Metallica on the table right now. You know, crunchy guitar stuff, scary, self-control, Into the Sandman. You feel like these guys are the knuckle dragging guys that I platform and laud in my book, Pussification. I don't know if you've seen the Netflix series that they did a few years ago. I can't remember what it's called, something about dragon or something.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No,
I can never listen to Metallica music again. I'm sure Hetfield could probably kick my ass in a fight, maybe. I've taken years of Taekwondo. Who knows? And I'm not challenging him. And it looked like he absolutely hated doing this documentary. But it is filled with whining, complaining. It's not the stuff you want to hear from rock stars,
right?
And they're doing therapy sessions. It's like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I cannot listen to their music anymore. It forever ruined me. My wife's sitting over there looking at me while we're watching this documentary. She's like, "Really? We're going to keep watching this? These guys are hamsters." And it's really pathetic. So we switched over and we watched this Rush doc with Getty and Alex Lifeson and Neil Peart. Absolutely polar opposite, antithesis. And when somebody looks at Geddy Lee, especially Getty, he doesn't think macho dude or anything like that. Those guys are ponied up, rock and roll, dealt through hard times, stuck together as a band, wasn't trying to kill each other at each other's throat. Very, very different documentary, buddy.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I'm just hearkening back to Metallica. I'm one of those. When I was a kid, it was I remember my first concert that I ever went to was Black Sabbath and Van Halen, 1978. And Van Halen opened for Black Sabbath, and once we got done with Van Halen, we thought we were finished. We didn't even need to see Black Sabbath anymore. But yeah, it was those were the days.
I imagine Van Halen won that little contest. I mean, was Ozzy singing for? He was still with Sabbath at that time. Right?
Yeah. It was the original guys. Yep.
You can't put David Lee Roth up against Ozzy Osbourne and expect Ozzy to win. That's like putting McCain up against Obama. You got Uncle Fester against Tiger Woods. It's going to be a dust up.
Right.
My first concert. Did we talk about this before? It sounds like I'm getting old and slipping. Was Kiss when I was 13, Lubbock, Texas, Lubbock Coliseum. There's this little known Australian band that opened for him called AC/DC. Talking about stealing the show. Just absolutely killed it. And they didn't have light shows. They didn't have fire. They didn't have blood. They didn't have, dragons, stilettos, none of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty crazy. That the AC/DC, you can't even imagine these days them opening for anybody. But hey, by the way, I love this is regarding pussification. One of the great things I see on ClashDaily.com, which is of course awesome, advice for parents on how not to raise a little P.
Yeah, and I didn't happen to write that one, and you know that me being the shameless self-promoter, I seldom put up anything else that
but it
that
works.
other folks do, aside from me, because I want to be looked at and fawned over. No, but this lady, she did it on a Christian site, and I particularly enjoy that. I know people don't think I'm a Christian because I've got the mouth of a stevedore, and some think a soul of a heretic. But anyway, this lady, she put up on this Christian site, she's like, hey, if you have a teen in your home and you don't want said teen to turn into an adult tinkerpot, then I have some pointers for you. And one of the pointers is don't wake your kid up. Don't come up there, honey, are you ready to get up this morning? Mommy, I don't want to get up. She's like, let them get up on their own accord. I love what Ted Nugent says all the time. We need to replace these EBT cards with this thing called an alarm clock. And that would change things greatly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Listen, I love the fact that this was originally on a Christian site because it's not too much of a stretch to say that some of the fundamentals of pussification actually converge with some of the fundamentals of Christianity. I mean, I know I'm going to go to hell for that, but isn't that the case? I mean, what she's saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what she's.
I mean, it's and that's something that my atheist brethren, who look, I'm a Christian. I don't care if somebody doesn't believe in God. That's between them and the God who does or doesn't exist. Which is a dicey dice roll when you take the big audio snooze and the eternal dirt nap. But that's up to them. But here's what I don't like about today's atheists. They're just like liberals. Like if you mention God or you try to equate some kind of principle with something that's has biblical infrastructure or it's underscored in the scripture, all of a sudden they're like, don't push a religion on me. Don't be talking Jesus and everything right now. You drive me crazy. Christopher Hitchens, he did atheism right. My buddies that I went to school with back in the day in the late 70s and 80s at Texas Tech, they did atheism right. They wouldn't throw a fit. They didn't get offended. They didn't start dusting up and squawking like a chicken and just plucked its butt feathers. They listened to you, dealt it back, gave you a little jab, went on, and played baseball or football or something.
Yeah.
These, however, when I equated biblical principles with masculinity, first of all, that tied their mind in a knot because they think all Christians are these little dandies and pansies. Secondly, the atheist also thought that, you can't bring the Bible into this equation. Well, it's a sacred piece of literature. It's the number one bestseller of all time. It's whether you believe it or not, it does have some pretty interesting stuff that talks about the development of men and what masculine men are supposed to be. So I don't know if that helps any, Jamie.
Well, no, it does.
Way off in the ditch or
no,
what?
But here because you're really onto something here because when you mention, especially when you mention Hitchens, because a lot of the atheists I know and who listen to this show and who correspond with me are as protective of religious liberty as anybody on earth, and that they're not the guys who are chasing after nativity scenes at a city hall. I mean, these are people who are really tied to the Constitution, tied to liberty, and they're all over it. And so yeah, you're right. Hitchens did do it the right way because he was as voracious a defender of religious liberty as anybody, as an atheist.
Yeah, and I would like the liberals that are listening to you right now that think Christians are the bane of our culture and of the planet, and particularly here in the United States, that you're not going to see any Christian want to lop your head off for being a homosexual. They're going to pray for you, give you a Mike Huckabee tickets, to go see him speak, send you a Hillsong CD. That's it. But you will see Islam do that.
Well, here's a good example of that. The Christian community overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump, even though they know Donald Trump probably couldn't quote one passage from the Bible, but they voted for him because they know about strength. They could count on him in their minds to defend their faith, and that's really all. People think Christians just want to sit there and make everybody like them, but the reality is they just want to be left alone. And that
you want me to give you probably one of, because I've got some evangelical brothers, never Trumpers. Donald Trump's not a Christian.
Yeah,
he ain't Christian enough. He said, "Grab him by the whoo." He's been married 3 times.
Right.
Got them fancy stuff. Likes hot women. It's like, and what would you do if you were an unredeemed billionaire? Anyway, here's something that Trump's doing that's very Christ-like. Anytime Jesus went toe-to-toe, interface with somebody that's spewing out lies, hype, and spin, you know what he did? He didn't pick a daisy and say, "Have a nice day." He upbraided them. He confronted them. He rebuked them. And the stuff that Trump's doing to the media, Jamie, OMG, man, is he following in Christ's footsteps by giving them crap. If Jesus was walking, if he was schlepping this pebble in his sandals, wearing that robe and having that Ted Nugent haircut right now, and he saw, what's the guy's name, Anderson Cooper, or any of the other lackeys that spew schmegma at us nonstop, ad infinitum, ad nauseum, you know what? He would confront them. He would ridicule them. He'd do exactly what Trump's doing. At least that's what I get from a cursory glance of the Gospels.
Yeah, and you never know. You're always, because you and I got into this last time around on the "What would Jesus do" thing. But come on, let's face it. Jesus would not allow himself to be dressed up in a tux and stand in front of a bunch of goons who don't have any of his interests at heart. That's for sure.
Yeah, the only time he would do it, and when he took one for the team, the grand finale when he was crucified. Other than that, he's going to turn over their tables. He's going to whip them out of the temple.
Well,
and but that's lost on the soft focus, feminine hygiene evangelicals who think Trump ought to be nicer than a sweet kitty.
Right.
And of course CNN, they don't get that either. But that's the rowdy Galilean that lived 2,000 years ago. They killed him for a reason. It was his mouth and how he blasted evil politicians and evil religious people.
And he did minister to people who didn't believe, and I understand that, but that
was his favorite crowd.
Right, but they to try to equate that, as some might say, with Trump, well, he should reach out. It's like, no, these people, at some point you have to basically say, these people, I am not getting involved in a suicide pact here. And Jesus wasn't going to either at that point. And so the ministering to the non-believers, they were people who Jesus recognized as people who would listen. And these people in the media have no desire to listen. They have one goal in mind, and that does not mean that Trump ought to reach out to them in any fashion. In my opinion,
no, it's war on, And again, I hate to drag the Bible into this. Christ understood that. His other buddies, his spokesmen, the apostles, prophets, they understood it. It was game on, and they didn't soft pedal. And but we don't have that kind of Christianity anymore, Jamie. We have this nicer than Jesus Christianity. It just lift up your testicles, snip them. You don't need them anymore. Also, your brain. You don't need your brain. You just be soft, placated, dumb cow of this system, beholding to the power brokers that are out there. And, of course, me, Jamie, I shatter that all to hell. I believe whether you're a believer or not, one thing that good book affords us, and our founders and framers understood, it's this thing called liberty. Don't tread on me.
Jamie Ullman and Doug Giles talking about Jesus in the Bible. What else?
What
more do you want?
Steve Martin song, "Are You Ready for a Miracle?" from Leap of Faith, and the show would be over.
Yeah.
Then we can go on a tour bus, get a choir behind us. I go out first, warm the crowd, and then you come out and just absolutely mesmerize them like Marjo Gortner, and we film it and put it on Netflix.
Nice, buddy. Okay, we'll get right on that. And listen, always great to talk to you. At Doug_Giles, ClashDaily.com. One of the audience's favorite times of the morning is with you, brother. Thanks so much, man.
Stay rowdy,
All right, you too, buddy.